Okay. You know, you see his shirt, proud to be lay longshoreman. You know, I made this shirt, I don't know, going back around, I think 2008, right? Because I'm very proud to be a longshoreman. You know, that was something that, I had to be dragged into. But once I became one, then I never regretted that decision. And gave it 150% because I just couldn't believe that for the work that we were providing, that we get, so much in return being a longshoreman. And there are so many facets of being a longshoreman, and one is training. And in this upcoming 2022 election cycle, it is being weaponized as a talking point. But let me tell you something about the whole training piece, that the candidates that are throwing out all of these wild and outlandish claims that they're going to have training available for everybody. They're going to do it in 6 months. They're going to have them done within 60 days of becoming a member, right? I have conducted training on an ongoing basis. I can only speak to the windows of service that I've had in the 2 periods when I was president. It originally started for me. I was at a workshop, I think it was the Trans-Pacific Maritime Conference in California. And in between the conference days, I went and took a visit over to Local 13, which is one of the largest union halls on the West Coast with the ILW. They have about 8,000 longshoremen that one local represents. And I went over to their union hall, and it's a huge place with TVs all around it. And it's just a lot of technology. And I'm a tech guy, so I was just fiending from just the presentation alone. As I was walking around the interior of the hall, I looked over and I saw a clipboard. And that clipboard had a sign-up sheet attached to it for anyone who was interested in training for the top lifter. And the top lifter is like, a big forklift that lifts container boxes, giant forklift. We call it a stacker. And on that, there was not one signature. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. When I got back to Jacksonville, I told the executive board that I want to do just that. And I went, and that became my new mission, to train on an ongoing basis till we get to the point that everybody who wants to train is trained. So when I made this proposal to management for us to do proactive training versus reactive training, which is what we've done in the past, we react to our needs and demands at the window of time, which is like playing catch up. I said, no, we ain't doing that no more. We're going to always train. And so in that window of time, I did not know that that there was a budget, right? That the trainers freight station fund allots training dollars to each and every port. And there's a formula for that that's predicated on, their volume of, work, right? So I had to find all that out. And so from that point, then I had to coordinate how we address this. So every January, I would sit down with the employees at the training committee, the joint training committee, and lay out what our budget was going to look like and how we was going to best, utilize that budget to get the most folks trained, and so tractor trailers, forklifts, look, we got people, they say, oh, I'll train. You hear these candidates, and for them to try to make an aggressive timetable like they've outlined, they must think that folks gonna train for free. And it sounds good, but it's a risky proposition at best, and nothing that you're gonna get full commitment on, because history has shown us that when we have tried that that it's good until it goes bad, right? I would say to you that right now you can't even accomplish that. You couldn't train for free. You've got to pay your trainees something so that if they get hurt, then they're eligible for workers' comp and all that comes with that. And look, folks will say they'll train for free and they'll go to work if those other folks won't go to work. Yeah, so what? You got 400 truck drivers on paper. They ain't going to work. I'll go to work, train me. And I'll train for free. And that sounds good until they get hurt. Then when they get hurt, guess what? All bets off. Fairer and fairer. Morgan and Morgan, Barnes and Cohen is the order of the day. We've had a number of times when people have gotten hurt in training and caused heartache for the port, whether their equipment damaged something or an individual themselves got hurt. All of that becomes a protracted legal affair in an age of litigation, right? And so we can't go down that road. So what we have to do is, with the limited training dollars that we have, we figure out how we best navigate the training landscape for a given fiscal year. And in that, then we identify that we're going to train 100 truck drivers, 50 forklift operators, and try to get through 2 or 3 gantry operators, because in the gantry program, it's a lot more challenging to figure out how you're going to roll through it, because it's all predicated on ships' arrivals and all of that. And if they're behind schedule, and whether or not you'll be able to get a trainee in the crane and all. And so these different crane trainees progress at a different rate. And so sometimes it takes 2 years to get a trainee trained. So, I came up with a way to get more ship crane and monk crane operators trained as well, because we didn't have no training for that. And so I took it to the training committee and say, look, when these ships come in, we need to dispatch an extra individual there to bird dog the operator and get some hands-on exposure to the ship crane and the monk crane. And because we don't have any in the port, and it didn't make sense to send someone to simulator training, because that's real expensive, and pound for pound, you won't get a return on your investment by doing that, right? So, and like I said, we got limited dollars for training. So having them bird dog the operator is giving us the ability to get some folks trained on ship cranes and monk cranes that ordinarily wouldn't have gotten trained. The funny thing is now, we still got different training components that we have got, that we've identified. And during my term of service, we trained the forklift, tractor trailer, lasher, the gantry, the monk crane, the forklift, the ship crane, porter training. So my train coordinator has been Nathaniel Chess Gardner, and he has done a stellar job to try to keep it fair. And so as we played catch up with training, we did it by seniority. And then when we have that sign up list come out, the highest seniority right on down the line. When I left out of this office in 2019, we were somewhere in the double letters, I think like a DD. as far as how low it had gotten for folks that were in training. And, you know, so we have got a ways to go to train everybody, and we do it by seniority in a descending manner. And that is working, and we're getting there. And really, at the end of the day, that kind of sums up the whole training component. So you hear a lot, but it really comes down to limited dollars to spread across training. Nothing that the local itself could afford. We're talking about, you know, $250,000, $300,000 to work with in a year for training. We're talking about doing it fairly by seniority in a descending order. We did try one time to do CDLs to expedite getting some more people trained, but when you talk about training, that's the reality of training, not the fantasy. Good.